Morning's live now is the Deputy Liberal Leader Sussan Ley. Susan, I knew you were going to get it when we spoke a week ago. Congratulations. The work begins.
The work does indeed, and it begins across every corner of this country, where we will be flying the Liberal and national flags and making clear to those who live everyday lives that we are the parties to meet their hopes and their aspirations for better futures for themselves, their families, and for women, their careers and their ambitions.
OK, Labor has reached that magic number 76 overnight, possibly even 77 with Gilmore. How much more difficult does that make your task?
Look, there'll be a lot of action in this Senate, so while we have yet to see how the numbers fall in the House, clearly there will be a lot of independents with perhaps different views. In the Senate, though, there will be 12 Greens senators, and I note that before coming into this election, or the actual date of the election, Anthony Albanese said he wouldn't be making any deals with the Greens. But already we're seeing the Greens positioning and talking about the things that they want. And what concerns me, as someone who represents rural and regional Australia and people on low and fixed incomes, is that what they want will immediately push up electricity prices, and we will see effects on the cost of living that we just can't afford.
They were already up.
That's one of the issues.
Under your watch, though, those prices.
Well, when you consider what the Labor Party has said they will do and what they won't do, it's a magic pudding, and the conclusion I draw is that it will put up prices. But that's what we're here for, Pete. We're here to hold the government to account every single day and to call out incompetence and the issues that affect Australians that we represent wherever they are.
Given the Liberals lost so many seats, a near wipeout, is the rebuild a 3-year plan, or is it more realistic to try and win back government in 2028?
It's totally a 3-year plan. We will be competitive and aim to win back government in 2025, and it's perfectly achievable. And remember that while Labor has fallen over the line, and I congratulate their leadership, the reality is that their primary vote was at a record low, and that many people chose someone else on the ballot paper as number one, not a Labor candidate and not a Liberal or National candidate either. So we'll go through that sober reflection that we need to do as we come out of this election period and work together.
How can you be so sure, though, if people continue to drift away from the Labor Party, how can you be so sure that people won't continue to drift away from your party as well?
Well, that's our task. That's our task now. That's part of the rebuilding. It's part of the reconnecting, and it's part of restoring trust in our leadership and what we have to offer, and that our core values are still there and they're still relevant to the aspirations of Australians.
You mentioned yesterday to female voters that you hear them, you heard them. What specifically does that mean? What will you do about that?
I know that many women abandoned us at the last election. Many didn't. Many were comfortable with the offerings and even pleased as I stood on my own pre-poll for 2 weeks in Western New South Wales. But I know that many women did not like the coalition as their primary choice at the last election. So we need to win back their trust. But first of all, Pete, I need to hear from them directly, face to face, on the ground, seat by seat. Because a lot of people have all sorts of views about what went wrong, in inverted commas, what needs to be done, and what the women problem, again in inverted commas, is. All of this is rhetoric and it's interesting commentary, but I have always taken my cues from people that I meet in the street, in their business, living their lives, and hearing directly from them is just so important. So I can't wait to get started. I'm in Canberra now. We had the party room yesterday. I'm incredibly grateful to my colleagues for electing me as Deputy Leader. I won't let them down, but I want to spend as little time as possible in this Canberra bubble and as much time as possible out there in the community.
Well, Labor has a record number of women that it is promoting to Cabinet. Is that something that Peter Dutton is going to have to do?
Well, those conversations will take place, and the first step is, of course, for Labor to swear in their ministry or to identify them, and that gives the coalition a cue as to where the positions might line up. They may make significant changes in terms of ministries and names and government departments. I mean, they'll change the furniture. They'll come up with some grand titles. They did that last time they came into government. Some of the titles of their ministers were so long we couldn't even fit them on a business card. But it will be the same old Labor, and we will hold them to account for what they do and what they say every single day.
What will your portfolio be?
I haven't concluded that discussion. This is a team game. Many discussions are to be had.
You're not going to give me anything on that one?
Well, I'm not, Pete, no, because it's not the time.
Okay. So we had Bridget McKenzie on the program last hour. She says the Nats will not support Labor's short-term emissions reduction targets. Will the Libs?
I'm not going to forecast policies when we don't have our shadow ministry in place and we haven't met to have a policy discussion. But Peter Dutton made this very clear yesterday. We will be focused on power prices, on cost of living, and what Labor's policies mean for everyday Australians in the suburbs, in regional Australia, for whom such costs could be an impost on their small business, on their manufacturing business. It's just too hard to meet.
Right.
So we know people are experiencing tough times. But in terms of the exact detail of what we may say, well, we'll wait until we've met and had those policy discussions.
Okay, but on the face of it, if the election were to teach you anything, wasn't it that the vast majority of people want tougher action on climate, tougher than what you were proposing?
Look, I don't think it's that simple. I did hear messages about climate, absolutely, but we had a strong set of policies which engaged the world in decarbonising, which of course will make the difference to the global climate. However, of course we heard the messages. So what we need to do is, well, we've got a review underway, which is being led by Senator Jane Hume, and it will listen, it will learn, and it will feed back. And then we'll make those careful consultations that we need to, without presuming to identify exactly what needs to happen now.
And like Peter Dutton mentioned yesterday, will you support a federal ICAC?
Yes.
Okay. Sussan Ley, we'll leave it there. We're out of time. Thanks for your time,
Thank
though.
you.
Talk to you soon.